Hi, and welcome back to another Bannister Gallery artist interview. I'm Victoria Gao. I'm the director of the Bannister Gallery here at Rhode Island College. And this is Don Smith joining me today.
My name is Donald Smith. I'm Professor Emeritus of Art at Rhode Island College. I'm retired now about 20 years, but I still continue to paint every day just about. And the show looks great. I'm so happy to be here. Everything looks terrific.
Yes, we have a show called Don Smith, Space, Intuition, and Expression that is currently on display at Bannister Gallery. And so why don't we start with this painting over here?
I thought this was a terrific small painting just for itself, but as you notice it says Joyce's painting of my wife, and I'd like to say also that the show is dedicated to her, Joyce 4C Smith. And at any rate, I thought it was really a nice painting. I was so happy that she had it, although she's got about 2,000 paintings around her every day.
And then if you look inside the gallery, you'll notice that we have a series of 3 different types of paintings going on. So we have expressionist paintings, we have spatial paintings, and we have bar paintings. So Don, could you tell me a little bit about why those 3 types of paintings?
Well, it's they kind of serve different purposes. Today, and probably since Picasso, artists have not felt like they have to stick to one idiom. We know very well that Picasso painted in any number of styles, and that sort of gave us freedom to do this. And also the idea of personality is one strict thing where only things can be done. It's changing rapidly. The concept of human personality has undergone a lot, and you know, we could even go back to Shakespeare and concepts that he had, different concepts. He didn't feel like there was a static personality in every person, and that sort of was a major startup of an idea, you might say, and it came down. Gerhard Richter today, of course, paints in 2 or 3 types of paintings. He paints the large squeegeed, huge squeegees that passed across the canvas. Yeah. And then he does very photographic, as a matter of fact, they're from photographs, of course, brushless, brushmark-less paintings, usually of people, but also landscapes and even baskets of flowers. Yeah. So it's not an unknown thing. I don't see so much difference in the way I go about things. The expressionist paintings, as we have here, are the small twins. These paintings I like very much. I'm delighted to get to show them. I have many more. I've done about 8 or 10 sets now. If you notice, the palette is the same, but they were painted simultaneously on the same size of canvas, and they're shown together. Not against each other, but they're shown separately. And I think these two are, they hold up very well, these 2 sets. And I'm working on more. I just finished a set day before yesterday, as a matter of fact.
But you always choose abstract painting, is that correct? You consider yourself exclusively?
I was trained conventionally. I've done all sorts of things. I've done figures, I've done landscapes. I went through a period in the 1970s, I think it had ended by the 80s more or less, of doing representational art. I'd gone back because I felt like I needed a little more grounding. And you know, abstract is not a very good term. I would rather call them non-figurative. Abstract can give an idea that they're distant or taken out of their piece of something else, but that really is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a concreteness, and like Cézanne, he said he wanted his paintings to be a parallel of nature. And I think that really suits me very well, that idea. These paintings all, for the most part, begin with a series of complicated drawings, all 3 types, and very complicated drawings. And then with the expressionist work, I continue to draw a lot and paint and draw and paint it. But it's the way, especially the way colors move through another color. I wrote once for a show that I had in 2017 at Wheeler Gallery. I wrote that a paradigm had been set by the New York school where forms move through other forms and on top of other forms. That is, you have a shape and then the form moves through it, on top of it, in a literal sense. Yeah. Not painted like a coloring book, as so many paintings are, very good paintings sometimes. Mm-hmm. The bar paintings are arrived at, again, with very, very complicated underdrawings and underpaintings. Sometimes they go for weeks and weeks and weeks. I find them to be more logical. Mm-hmm. And that answers a certain need that I have about occasionally. You do a lot of these and then you sort of work through them and then you're ready to go to the spatial paintings perhaps or the expressionist paintings. But here we have one little rule is that everything is painted vertically, everything. And so a complicated group of vertical shapes begin to assert themselves. And as you paint and as you add more color value and as you add more bars, then you begin to see where a bar is located. The painting has to speak to you. I don't know where these bars are going to go when the painting begins. None of these paintings do. I never know how they're going to turn out until they're sort of finished, you might say.
So then when you say you start with complicated drawings, yes. Are you intuiting at that point where the bars may go?
They're very intuitive. You draw according to how you feel. It's like any other drawing. You feel that something is needed here, you feel that something is needed there. These can be first in simple charcoal or even in black and white wash almost, or color wash. And you get hundreds of these because you may work on that for several days. So you have an abundance of these vertical marks on and shapes on your canvas. And then the canvas, hopefully, starts speaking to you. And so in this one, this was full of many, many shapes and forms here, all the space. And this kept asserting itself here, and I kept going back to it and going, I said, gee, that wants to be there, you know. And this is a counteraction. It's almost the same color value, but it's a tint. Pardon. A tint on the red color. And then the background space is extremely complicated. You have to find a color that doesn't take away and locates the bars in the right place. And I can't tell you how many times these are changed. Sometimes 10 and 15 times. The large painting here is a little older than the others. I felt though that I started doing things in this painting, the lines moving through spaces, and I felt like this was sort of the first time I was doing that kind of thing. This painting probably is 6 or 7 years old. We have a date, 2017, so it's 3 years old. It was the last of a series that I was doing as these so-called abstract compositions or non-figurative compositions. This one next to it is really in many ways different. There's more of a convoluted, ribbony effect. And I'm much closer in a way to the later New York school, which I identify with very strongly. And this is one of the last paintings in the show that I painted. It's very new. It was done in 2021. A painting which I like to keep the green at top, and it's hard to make everything work and keep a color in one spot. You want that color often to move through, and you say, well, it should come down here more, and it shouldn't. So you have to look and look and look and look.
I find your colors really striking. You have very specific color choices in your paintings, and they're each different in the bar paintings, from the expressionist paintings, from the spatial paintings. But how do you choose your colors? How do you arrive at them?
I've been called a colorist. I'm not, I don't think. In the strictest sense, I'm not an algorist. I don't go at color in that manner. I am very spontaneous with color. I usually mix a base color, which can be in the family of blues or yellows or grays, whatever I choose, a neutral color. This one started with a lot of pinks, and we can see the background painting coming through here in areas. And this is painted over. And it's the thing about color is you don't want the painting to become colorful. The word "full" there is the word you want to listen to. I don't want them to become decorative. That really is important. Cannot become decorative. And from time to time, I like to change colors. It's very hard because you start using a color and you find out that from day to day, you tend to go back to the same color mixture. There's something in your perception, I suppose, in one's perception that causes that. I'm not sure what it is, but you know, in a given series, I will find out that I will use a type of green, perhaps, with the blues. This is a kind of a sap green with the blues, and a yellow or green. This is a sap green, and then they're counteracted by their opposite, which would be red or orange in the case of the blues. So there is a lot of kind of, it's loaded with rules, you might say, about color. Although when I'm painting, I don't think about that. I almost never said, "Ooh, gee, this would be good with an opposite." Usually, I look at a painting and if my eye gets stuck in an area of the painting, then I sit back, and if I can observe my own feelings toward the painting, which I hope I can from time to time, then I will soon say, "Oh, this needs something. I'm not sure what it needs, but it's not working right." The space does not come forward, the edges don't overlap the way they should. There can be any number of things. You just don't feel that it's right. So that usually is the area that I attack, you might say, with a brush, loaded brush. Transparency and overlapping with transparency, say in this shape here or this shape here, it gives a tonality, it helps tonality. I consider myself a tonal painter. Not like Stuart Davis, who's a wonderful, wonderful painter, but he's atonal. He never does these things which lend to give a tonal quality. It's in the piano, you know. You put a lot of the pedal down, you're going to get some tone. I don't think Stuart Davis, if he were a piano player, which he was, played ragtime, but I don't think he used the pedal very much. I'm very fond of this painting. And because when I was painting, once again, if you can look at the surface, I've left a lot more surface stuff here, lines, and you can see where I was drawing underneath it. It was very complicated, and but some of them didn't work. So when they don't work, according to my perception, that could be for many reasons. You have to take a painting class, I guess. I started painting this, and I had a good friend who sadly passed away this year, Enrico Pinardi. And Enrico and I were close friends, and were office mates off and on for years. Enrico was so enthusiastic about Egyptian art. He had gone to Egypt, and he talked a lot about it, and his art was affected by it in many ways. So I was painting here, painting things, and then I had this swath of brown here, just across the whole painting. And so I went in there with a brush and I started cutting these shapes out. And I cut this shape out quite by chance. And what do we have? A pyramid shape, if you want to call it that. So I saw a kind of tension between this pyramid shape and this red floating, large looking piece coming down into the painting. And I named it, with Henry in mind, Enrico in mind, I call it pyramid power. And I told him, I said, here's really a pyramid that's working. We had a lot of fun with this painting, looking at it.
But this painting was made in 1998, according to the label at least, and then you start picking up this series again.
Yes, this was really quite different than that. Oh, in a sense, it's different. Only in the space is very open in the center of the painting. In the box-like shape here, which is the equivalent of a large orange shape there, has grown much, much smaller. And then the floating egg shape, which you find in several of these spatial paintings. And they're called spatial paintings because the dominant character of each one is this vastness of space. It's a feeling I don't even particularly like. I can't imagine being out in outer space, the vastness of outer space. I do not like that feeling. But this is the way these paintings ended up. Some people think these may be the most original things I've done. I suppose that's warranted. This mainly black painting, 3 boxes. You can see these are boxes moving in different directions. This one this way, this one this way. This is a box, and technically speaking, probably the perspective is off because to see the end of a box without any of the sides, you have to be looking square into the center of the square facing you. In perspective, then, the sides are all moving toward a vanishing point beyond. And it's the vanishing point would be covered up by this. It would be right there somewhere, if we could see behind it.
And it's interesting how in these spatial paintings, as opposed to the bar paintings and the expressionist paintings, you've really made brushstrokes completely disappear in these. And I find them so stunning to look at for some reason because it makes me want to sink in to the surface of the painting a little bit more.
Most of my work almost invariably requires a lot of scraping. And that's why many of them, for instance, this one I think, this little painting is on a stretch on a panel. So that if you press too hard on a painting that's just on stretchers, this one I think is on stretchers now, but that's after I painted, I put it on stretchers. But first of all, I punch a hole in it when I'm painting because I often scrape and go at it pretty gingerly. But and here, this is one of the greenest paintings I've ever seen in my life. It reminds me of a painting that Leonard Anderson did of a landscape. He did some wonderful landscapes, representational. He did them in Maine, I think, or New Hampshire, where he stayed in the summer. But he showed me this landscape that was as green as you've ever seen a landscape. And I told him, Leonard, I have one spatial painting that's even greener than yours. It's the greenest painting I've ever seen in my life. And here are 2 small, very small studies in this category of painting. And the scale changes, these little tiny shapes. And I like them very much. I hope they work. They seem to for me, at least. I hope. And if they do for me, I think probably they will for others. I'm a great believer in that we're different, we're all unique, but we're also similar human beings, I'm saying. And I trust that notion I have about human beings, that if I like it and I can put something down that's logical and is meaningful, I have to trust the vision I have of life, that people are similar enough and perception is similar enough that we can relate on that level. I'm a very great believer in that. On the other hand, we're each unique, and students should never worry about being original because you can't willfully become original. You can't will it to be true. You must work very hard, and as you work, and often I get involved in this, as you work, then the painting begins to speak. Sometimes I'll have a painting that's very much like this, but somehow it doesn't seem to hit the nail on the head. And so I'll say, gee, I see these parts that I like, maybe here or maybe here or wherever. And then I turn the painting into a spatial painting. Doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
All right, that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for joining me with Professor Emeritus Don Smith in the Bannister Gallery today. This show will be on display until Friday, February 11th. We are currently only open to students, faculty, and staff who are on campus at Rhode Island College, but stay tuned to our Instagram and our Facebook for more images from the show, as well as our website, www.ric.edu/Bannister. Bannister. There you can read an artist statement from Don about how he comes to these paintings from a conceptual standpoint. So thank you so much.